sawa ang mga pangako.
Snap elections. It was a very difficult elections.
Ang mga pangakong laging napapako sa pagtitiwala ay pumapatay. Nakakapagod din ang umasa, lalo't ang bituka ay walang laman. Napakailap sa mahirap ang hustisya, lalo't bansa'y hawak lang ng ilan. Nag-people power one, nag-people power two.
NAMFREL was organized. We had about 700,000 volunteers all over the country in one barangay in Mambusao, Capiz. Rodrigo Ponce was an ordinary farmer. And he felt that he had to do. Because when you refresh your memory, then it becomes very vivid. Well, Rodrigo Ponce says the students, the professionals, the businessmen, all are willing to do something for the election. And I, as an ordinary farmer, will join NAMFREL. And he did join NAMFREL. And that afternoon, while they were counting the votes, Aquino, Marcos, all of a sudden, 4 men barged in. And he immediately grabbed all of the ballots, wrapped it in the Philippine flag, and dashed out. And when they saw him, he asked that, if possible, let them continue their operation. He was shot 4 times. And when I went there, I picked up the NAMFREL poll watching manual, which was drenched with blood. But when I saw his wife, I embraced her, and we both could not communicate to each other. And there were similar incidents in Arayat, where the father of a young boy, 7 years old, as his tomb was being laid, he was shouting, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," or "Tatay, Tatay, Tatay." And vividly, I felt if I did not challenge them, probably they would still be alive. And quite a number of the NAMFREL victims fell on the wayside. And yet I remember what Jose Rizal said, "You who will remain, do not forget us."
Nag-people power one, nag-people power.
I distinctly remember that on that same evening, I went to Marikina because we had a NAMFREL, we had a NAMFREL celebration. And after Mass, I heard that this was happening. And so, I had to pass Krame. And I said, "Oh God, if I pass Krame, they will lock me up again." And so I went to the Cardinal, and it was about 10 o'clock in the evening. And he was asleep. But I asked the guard to allow us to come in because we had something very important. So he woke up and sat down with us, and we told him what was happening. And he says, "All right, I will now deliver a message to Radio Veritas." And Chris Monsod and I crafted a very short message, and he delivered that, followed by a second message calling all the people to go to EDSA. But what was significant in EDSA was that we were one. I look at EDSA. Truly, that was the miracle of EDSA, because we were one people and one nation together with one objective. And when President Aquino was installed, there were many reforms that took place, and I distinctly remember discussing with IMF when IMF was imposing the same kind of sanctions that they wanted. I said, if not for EDSA, you will not be able, and many businesses will not be able to repay the obligations. If you insist that, I will step down from the cabinet of President Aquino and denounce you precisely of such activity. After EDSA, and that's what I write after 10 years reflecting of EDSA, is, well, we have elected leaders. Kayo nang bahala. No more participation. You know, when President Aquino was elected president, the GDP growth rate of the Philippines in 1988 was 7.7%, which growth rate was never achieved. We were on an economic takeoff. Thailand and the Philippines, we were on the same ground, and we were ready for an economic takeoff. Unfortunately, we had 7 coups d'etats, and that brought down our economy down to about 1.1%.
People power one, the people power two.
When President Estrada was elected, he was elected by 40% of the majority. And I felt that a man who had a tremendous support for the poor was probably a man that can finally eliminate or reduce the poverty level. At one time, I told President Estrada is that, Mr. President, what you need is a personal conversion, because in a way, God must have placed you there for a purpose. But somehow, that did not materialize. I was present in EDSA too, especially when President GMA was going to be sworn in. And, you know, I felt that the constitutional process provided for is that the president is incapacitated or he resigns. And I waited and listened. And then over radio, he came out publicly and he said, as president, I now resign.
Kahit nag-EDSA 3, kahit mag-EDSA 4.
Now, EDSA 3 again took place, but I felt we cannot be going EDSA 3, EDSA 4, EDSA 4, EDSA 5. We have to follow our constitutional process.
Ngunit hindi pa rin tayo natututo.
We must always remember in history that of the miracle of EDSA. But we should not remember and just say miracle of EDSA, but it was a vehicle in order to bring about the necessary change. So if we can achieve a continuous change and growth, there is no need for any future EDSA. We have achieved already what we wanted. But in the remote event that a dictator comes into power, then probably we must remember EDSA again. What the Constitution says, all authority emanates from the people. If that authority is not expressed in a free and honest election and is run by a dictator or a junta, then probably the memories of EDSA should, in a way, trigger a consideration of what must be done.
Kahit nag-EDSA 3, Kahit mag-EDSA 4, ang buhay natin di pa rin magbabago. Kahit mag-people power, tayo ang talo. Hanggat hindi tayo natututo.